Hey there, everybody. It's Kelly Falardeau here of the Grit, Guts, and Courage show. And in this show, we talk to people who have had a challenge in their life and they've learned to overcome it. And today, my guest is Patti Stueland. And I'm so excited because I don't know what she's going to talk about. And I always love hearing new stories. So, Patti, welcome.
Hey, Kelly, it is fantastic to be here with you today. I am so excited to be a part of your podcast.
So, you know what? We're going to jump right into it, Patti. What's your story of grit, guts, and courage?
You know, since I was 6 years old, I always knew that I wanted to be a teacher. As I got older, it kind of changed what grade level and what it was I wanted to teach, but I always knew I wanted to be a teacher, and that's exactly what I did. And right before my 50th birthday, my dad had succumbed to his 5-year battle of cancer. And, overall, things were going pretty good, but it did seem like after he had passed away, I started noticing that I really did not seem to have that passion and purpose that I felt all of my 30 years, basically, that I had been teaching and coaching athletics up to that point. And I knew I'd heard things in my family that there was depression that kind of ran through the family, but I'm thinking, I'm Patti. I'm Miss PMA, positive mental attitude. I don't have depression. And probably about 3 months after my dad had passed away, it was the last day of school before winter break, and I thought I was having a heart attack. And so I did something that you should never do. I drove myself to the emergency room at our local hospital, and I walked in, and of course they asked, what can we do for you? And I said, I think that I'm having a heart attack. And immediately, boy, they start going to town and, hooking me up to stuff and everything. So after 3 days in the hospital, I learned that my heart was fine. What they figured out is I had suffered a massive panic anxiety attack, and they felt that it was all due to a part of the depression I was experiencing and the grief I was experiencing from the passing of my dad, because my dad was the main man in my life. And so from there, I thought, okay, I got to figure out a way to, figure out how I'm going to pursue forward with this grief thing. And so with my mom, we did get into grief group. Luckily, the hospice program that my dad was with, we started doing that. But again, I was doing it for her. I wasn't doing it for me because I didn't need counseling for grief, Well, I did need counseling for grief, and I didn't really realize that until I started noticing. And I know it's going to probably be hard for anybody to understand, but I'm a very outgoing person. I love life. I get involved. I'm inspired by a lot of things. I'm motivated by a lot of things. And all of a sudden, I started noticing that in that January, about 2 weeks before my 50th birthday, I started withdrawing from everything. I didn't want to go. I could barely get myself out of bed. I didn't want to go to work. I didn't want to interact with anybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody. And I spent about a couple weeks in bed, which was highly unusual for me. And that didn't really worry me too much until this one morning I woke up, and there was this thought and this voice in my head that said, you know what? If you didn't wake up tomorrow, nobody would care. And I was like, excuse me? And so immediately I got on the phone to call my doctor because I thought there is something definitely wrong. So I told the receptionist, I said, I need to get in and see the doctor today. Oh, well, we could get you in about two weeks. And I actually said to her, I said, you do not understand. If I do not get in to see him today, I may not be alive tomorrow. And I was surprised by myself that those were the words that came out of my mouth. And they knew who I was. I had taught their children in school, and they knew the kind of person I was. And she said, hold on just a second. She came back and she said, Dr. Aurora said, if you can get here in 2 hours, he'll work you in. I said, I'll be there. So of course, when I get there, they hand me this clipboard, and I can tell from the questions that they're asking, they think I'm crazy, or they think that I am depressed. I'm thinking, I'm not depressed. Well, yeah, I was depressed. In my defense, though, we also discovered that I had 0 estrogen in my system, for one thing. So that was not helping. But I found out through all of that depression is hereditary. And whether I wanted to admit it, I was someone who was suffering from that. It's just that I found ways to cope with it all of my life. But what that depression and what all of that was teaching me was I was not inspired to teach anymore. And so, but I knew I still needed to go at least 5 more years before I could even retire so I could get my benefits and everything. Those last 5 years, they were a struggle. I was, fake it till you make it. And that's what I basically was doing. And then 2 years before I decided that I was going to retire, I thought, you know what, you need to start doing something to inspire yourself. You got to change up your routine. You got to do some things for yourself. So I actually joined some classes at our local junior college. And I thought, I always want to learn how to play the piano. So I took a beginning piano class and I learned how to play the piano. Now, of course, I'm like 30 years older than anybody else in the class. Did I care? No, I did not care because I was going to learn how to play the piano. But it was the very first time that I ever did anything for me, because all the classes I had ever taken up to that point, they were all in an effort for my teaching credential or how I could teach this subject better. It was all related to my job. It was nothing that was just personal for me, personal enjoyment. And this piano class is like, oh my gosh, I started looking at the catalog of all these other things that I could do. So they had an introduction to drawing class. And, I'm a little amateur drawer myself. And I thought, but I'd never taken an official class. I took an intro to drawing class. I loved it. It was fabulous. And then one of our teachers, who happened to be one of my former students, he was our woodshop teacher. And he said, Patty, on Tuesdays and Thursdays is my ROP class after school. You should come to my woodshop class. And I go, but I'm an adult and that's for kids. Can I come to that? And he goes, yes, come to it. My last 2 years of teaching, every Tuesday and Wednesday, I went to his woodshop class. And I learned all the basics and I started making these incredible things. And it was just like, wow. And what those things did, because I was starting to refill my cup because I had been so good about giving and giving and giving, I was forgetting to fill my own needs. And here with those things, I was doing that. So when I knew it was going to be my last year of teaching, I thought, you know what, you are going for it. You are putting it all out there. You are going to have the best school year of your life. And I did. I started these things for all of the adults on campus, and I was doing all this different stuff. And of course, everybody's going, Patty, you can't retire. Look, you're back on course again. You're ready to go. You can't retire. I go, you don't understand. The reason I'm good and I'm doing all this is because I know this is the end of this. And they go, oh man, that's a bummer. But, but at least I knew that I went out on my terms and I went out on a high note. And that's what I wanted to do. But then it's kind of like when July 1st came, and that was the morning that I realized I was no longer an official staff member of the Apple Valley Unified School District. I remember for probably about 30 seconds, I actually thought, what the heck did you just do? What are you going to do now? And I did not have a clue. I'm 55 years old. There's still a lot of life ahead of me. But for the first time in my entire life, I did not know what I was going to do next. So I didn't put any pressure on myself. I just thought, you know what, let go and let God. My Christian faith let me know he's never let me down before, and he's not going to do that now, because I felt like it was really him that placed it on my heart, that it was time for me to close that door, that he had another door for me to open. I just didn't know what the door was. And so this one Sunday morning, I'm opening up the Sunday paper, and here's the Parade magazine, and the cover on the Parade magazine says, second acts for people 50 and older. And I thought, oh, let's see what they're doing. And there was this little tiny thing. It talked about being a certified life cycle celebrant. I thought, well, this sounds interesting. And so it gave a website, and I went to the website, and the website basically, it's a certified life cycle celebrant, which means someone, in the terms that I put it, that you officiate ceremonies womb to tomb. And so basically what I did is I went back to school for a year. And now I officiate weddings and funerals. And the reason I took on the funeral thing is because a year before my dad had passed away, my dad had asked me if I would officiate his funeral. And I said, well, I've never done that before, but if that's what you want, Dad, that's what I'll do. So that whole last year of his life, I started putting things together, and because I wanted to be totally prepared. And I created and I conducted, and I will have to say, a month before he passed away, I asked him, I had it all done. And I asked him, Dad, would you like to hear your celebration of life service? He goes, yeah, I would love that. And I sat there and I officiated his celebration of life service with him. And when he got done, I kind of sat there and he goes, that's exactly what I wanted. That's why I asked you to do it. I mean, what a true blessing to be able to do that. And I was fabulous. I did such a great job at his celebration of life service. Now, as soon as it was done, I mean, I lost it big time, but during the service, I was great. But what it did is it planted a seed for me to know that I have been given a gift to be able to do that, because not everybody can do that type of thing. Weddings, people can do pretty well. The funerals, that's another thing. But I saw that I did have a talent for doing that. So pursuing that and becoming a life cycle celebrant was great. So, you know, getting to officiate my former students' weddings, that was fabulous. And then, of course, it was very, very special to do many family and family friends celebration of life services, because that's what I truly do. I feel that those people need to have a celebration of their life. Is it sad? Yes, it is. But let's celebrate all of the amazing things that they did during their time here. But then COVID hit, and we all know that the world kind of slowed down and stopped during that whole thing, including weddings and funerals for the most part. So it's like, all right, now what am I going to do? But I always seem to find little things that keep me motivated, you know, and I sold my house 4 years ago. I've been traveling the United States full time in my motorhome. So as much as I could find campgrounds and stuff that were open during COVID, I still managed to travel. So in the past 4 years, I've covered about 70% of the United States so far. And if it wasn't for COVID, I'd probably have 100% by now. But I meet the most amazing people, and hearing their stories and finding out just their backgrounds and their things that they do. Those are things that inspire me. And in my hope, I hope that I also inspire them. And then in January of 2022, I happened to be once again pondering, what is it that you want to do with the rest of your life? There's got to be something more for you to do. And through one of the funeral celebrants, she was going to be presenting at the Week of Kindness and Gratitude. And it was free. And I thought, well, how bad can that be? A week of kindness and gratitude, and it's free? That sounds exactly what I want to do. And through that, I happened to meet Tony Kaufman, and she was talking about this program that she offered for, you know, public speaking, motivational speaking and stuff. And I was an activities director for 20 years, and I was the one that was in charge of hiring those motivational, inspirational speakers for our campus. And there would be some people I think, oh, I want to do that. That'd be so cool to do that. And then others I think, I could do way better than that. You know, I'd be better than these people. But it planted that seed that I'm thinking, oh, wouldn't that be awesome to do? But I thought, well, I'm 60 years old, you know, 61 years old. That ship has sailed. I can't do it. But listening to Tony's presentation let me know I'm not done. I can still do that if that's what I want to do. So during 2022, I worked with her, and that's when I created my business, Pathways with Patti. And basically what that, you know, because of my life and all the different pathways that I've been on, and literally that I am on a pathway in my real life because I'm traveling the United States, and eventually I'll get up in your area in Canada because Canada is on that to-do list as well. But the thing is, I just started noticing that, Patti, it's time for you to take all of this knowledge, all this expertise, and all of these people that were your mentors, your coaches, the people that inspired you, family and friends, they paid it forward to you. And you are now at that stage of life that it's time for you to do the same for all of those people. And through Pathways with Patti, that's really what I have gotten to do. And through that, I developed my message that I call Living Your Best Dash. So when I go and I speak to people, one of the first things that I ask them, how many of you can say that you're living your best life? And of course, people are like, yeah, I'm living my best life. And then I ask them, I say, all right, let's take it one step further. How many of you are living your best dash? They're kind of going. And I said, well, I'm not talking about the dash for cash or the 50-yard dash. I'm talking about that when you go to a cemetery and you look at that headstone and you see a date of birth and a date of death, there is what looks like to many people that insignificant tiny little line in between there. And that little tiny line, that represents that person's life and their time here on earth. It tells the story of their life. So what will your dash represent to others when people see your dash? Is it going to be a dash that represented a life of, oh, I should have, oh, I could have, oh, why didn't I? A bunch of regrets? Or does your dash represent a life of, oh my gosh, that Patti, even though she retired, look what she did. She became a life cycle celebrant and she did this and she did that. What is your story going to be? And unfortunately, in America, there's kind of this underlying message that once you get middle age, that's it. It's either golf, pickleball, knitting, crochet, and there is nothing wrong with that because I do all those things. My point that I try and I work on helping people realize is that if you still want to have other passions and purpose in your life, there are ways and there are things that to do that it's never too late to create a legacy that you can be proud of. And so through my pathways with Patti, I'm doing motivational speaking. Within 2 weeks ago, I just started my Rediscovering Your Passion and Purpose with Patti podcast, which I'm thinking, whoa, this is like, are you kidding me? I got to write a chapter in a book that went to the #1 Amazon best-selling list. And I'm like, that's crazy. I had a couple magazines ask if I would write an article for them. I did that. And then one of the things that I want to start doing, a friend, Tammy Rader, she inspired me because I get a newsletter from her each and every week. And I thought, that's what I want to do for the people that are on my list. I want to write a weekly newsletter. And so for the past 12 weeks, every week I have written a newsletter that goes out to my list. And the feedback that I'm getting from all of these different venues of things that I am doing, I mean, as much as I'm being inspired and I feel the passion and purpose, I'm sharing that with other people and showing them exactly what is possible. And through getting to be a part of this book, it was all about acronyms. And so I was asked, do you have an acronym for the word DASH? And I didn't at that time. And they said, well, that's what the book's going to be about. So see if you can come up with an acronym for that. And so the acronym that I came up with for the word DASH is Daring to Achieve a Successful and Happy Life. And that's what I'm doing. And that's my message. That's what I'm paying forward to other people, is helping them to discover what their passion and purpose is. And along with that, create a plan and then take that plan and put it into play, because you're only limited by your imagination on what you can do. So I figure here I went just 12 years ago, going from laying in bed for 2 weeks and having a thought in my head that said, basically, if you didn't exist anymore, nobody would care. To this day, I'm sitting here with you, doing this podcast with you, and getting ready within the next couple weeks of working with you, Kelly, on creating my book series of Living Your Best Dash in 12 years. I mean, and that's just it. I want people to open up their minds to know whatever your age is, you're only limited by your own imagination of what you can do and your determination and your willingness just to try some things. Does everything work out for me? No, it does not. Is everything positive for me? No, it is not. But the difference is, and if I've got time real quick, just very quickly, I had an incident where I was going to go camping in the Sierras, and through a whole series of unfortunate events that happened, that God was telling me perhaps I shouldn't go to the Sierras, I continue to go. And what happened was, about 5 miles from the campground, I watched my motorhome burn to the ground with everything in it.
Oh my God.
All I had was the clothes on my back, and the 2 people that were with me, same exact thing. I stayed with my family. We camped that week. Family gave us stuff and some money to go buy some stuff and all that sort of thing. But the bottom line was, at the end of the week, I'm sitting on the end of a pontoon boat with my niece, and I think she's like 6 years old, and she hasn't understood why Aunt Patty's motorhome is not in this empty space at the campground. And we're sitting on the back of the boat fishing, and she turns to me and she says, Aunt Patty, your motorhome has burnt to the ground and you have nothing. And I look at her and I said, you know what, Tiff, you're absolutely right. But even though that happened, didn't Aunt Patty stay here camping with you, and haven't we had a wonderful time? And she goes, yeah, we really have. We've had a great time. What was I going to go home and just be sad and somber about the fact that I lost my motorhome and everything that was in it? Yes, I was upset, and I had PTSD for a while of watching it burn to the ground. But the bottom line was, nobody died and nobody got injured from that incident, that horrible incident that happened. That was the positive. That's what I focused on. All those things that burned, that's just it. They were things. They were not people. And as we both know, people cannot be replaced. The things can be replaced. So that's the way that my brain works. When the bad thing happens, and they are going to happen, how am I going to look at that and turn that incident or that episode into something where I learn something from it, I grow from it, and I move forward?
Oh my gosh, you're an incredible woman. Because so many
Thank you.
people would just say, that it's tragic and there's a tragedy in that. And then they use it to hold themselves back. Whereas
Exactly.
you find the gift in it and then move forward.
Yeah. Because life is short. You want to make the most of it.
Exactly. So I think that's just fantastic, because a lot of people just see, how tragic life can be. Whereas you see, okay, yeah, this tragedy happened. What am I going to do about that?
Right.
And so I get it. Totally get it. Okay. So Patti, we're almost at the end of our time. So how can people work with you?
Well, there's several ways. If you want me to speak, I am more than happy to come and speak to you virtually or in person. And I talk on a variety. I mean, one of my talks is about the whole thing that happened with my motorhome. That's a whole signature talk that I do right there. But and I also do, my big thing is about living your best dash, daring to achieve a successful and happy life. My website is www.pathwayswithpatti.org. And they can go to that website. They can sign up to get a free 30-minute Zoom chat with me. A Patti chat is like what I like to call it. And we can talk about where you are and what are the things that you would like to, you believe that you'd like to do. And we can start talking about your passion and purpose. Also, because of my podcast, if you have a story that you've overcome some challenges, and yet through all of those challenges, you have rediscovered your passion and purpose, I want you to be a guest on my show, just like I want you, Kelly, to be a guest on my show now. Yeah. Same thing. You can reach out and you can contact me through my website to be a guest on my podcast. And I also have a 6-week course that I do live on Zoom with people that I work with them. And we do exactly what I say. We look at where your life is. Where is it that you believe that you want to go? And I work with people to assist them to create that plan. And then once we've created the plan, we put it into play and we see what it is, because that's what as I say to people, make it a great day or not, the choice is yours. Attitudes are contagious. Is yours worth catching? I want my attitude to be, contagious and worth catching. And I want other people's, because that makes the big difference in what way and what direction your life moves in. Because my motto has been, since I retired, life's an adventure, enjoy the journey. And that's what I'm doing.
I love it.
And I want everybody to do that. I want everybody to enjoy the journey.
What's your email? And I think you already said your website, but feel free to say it again.
www.pathwayswithpatti.org. Or you can also email me at pastueland@gmail.com.
Excellent. Okay, Patti, what are some real quick final words of wisdom?
My final words of wisdom are, as long as you have a heart that is beating, you have lungs that are breathing, you still have an opportunity to make a difference in this world. You have the opportunity to still create a legacy that you can be proud of. At any moment in time, it's all about making that choice. And if your choice is to live the very best life you can with passion and purpose, reach out to people just like Kelly or myself. We are here to help you because your life matters.
I love it. Thank you so much, Patti. And there you go. That's another episode of the Grit, Guts, and Courage Show.
Thank you.